Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to our Zoom Daily with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz to a realistic map of meaning. We were just having a great discussion behind the scenes, and it's always exciting to start mixing it up with other people. So it's just a joy to have Torah topic just floating around and fluttering in their brains. So I'm excited. Let's just tune right in and turn it over to the Rabbi. Shalom, Rabbi Schwartz. We're going to turn the class over to you, and it sounds like you got some exciting things you want to share. So, I've made you host. We'll let you take it over from here.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Hello, everybody. I'm going to share the
Well,
screen here with we're up to the epilogue. We kind of finished the main body of the book, but I think there's some interesting things to read on. So I'll just keep reading this epilogue, and then towards the end, we may go into something a little different than what we've been doing. So over the course of this book, I have assumed that a personal answer to what's in it for me lies in first answering what's in it for God. In other words, to start understanding yourself, you first have to understand God. At God's level of reality, there's nothing but God's self. With no other self to consider, God is selfish. However, at our level of reality, God is selfless in that God is constantly creating other selves and is completely devoted to their self-realization. It has to be that way because creating is what makes God God. What's in it for God is to be God. What's in it for me follows naturally and logically. The most creative thing God could create is a self that itself could create. That's me and you. We can create with our minds just like God does. We do so most often with relationships. To the extent that we create relationships that fit in with God's overall creation, we add to the only thing that matters, the only thing that is real, God's self. Such divine value guarantees us exquisite and endless satisfaction. Everyone can create relationships of divine value. There are many stories confirming this. I have a particularly heartfelt one told by Dr. Jordan Peterson about a patient he once had as a clinical psychologist. Peterson's patient was a woman who had recently been released from what used to be called an insane asylum, sanitized now to a behavior therapy clinic. This clinic handled the most incompetent and damaged of people. Peterson couldn't adequately convey the wretchedness of the place, except to relate how his brother, who wasn't familiar with such settings, became temporarily traumatized from visiting him there. This woman was as damaged a person as you will ever meet, Peterson recalls. She was a street person whose low self-esteem fit exactly with the ratty, dirty coat she wore. Despite being short, she always stooped over whenever someone was nearby, as if there was a light emanating from the person that was too overwhelming for her to bear. It was such strange behavior that people avoided her. This only increased her timidity. This woman had a rough life with nothing going for her, Peterson lamented, not even any attractiveness or stewardship. Intellectually, she was impaired and illiterate, probably in the bottom 10% of the population, which is a rough place to exist. He sighed sympathetically. Peterson detailed her plight further. Her mother was ill and bedridden and beset with a violent boyfriend who was an alcoholic schizophrenic, always berating her about Satan. Notwithstanding all these handicaps, back in the time when they released everybody from the institutions, she too had been released. Peterson groaned in disbelief. Peterson's speech exuded his honest compassion for this unfortunate woman. Or maybe it was adulation, because this is how he continued. Well, after she was released, she got a dog to which she became quite attached. She looked after it and took it for walks and found this very satisfying. One day, Peterson trumpeted, she came back to speak to the administrator to see if she could find an inpatient worse than her. She wanted to take them for a walk with the dog to see if the dog would help them as much as it helped her. At this point, Peterson's voice cracked with emotion, even though he had told the story many times. He concluded, you meet someone in the world with no sign of success or status or ability that you would recognize. They are an outcast. Nevertheless, they rise above their own dismal state, a catastrophe, to find someone else to help. They prove that in every opportunity to despair, there is also an opportunity to rise up. Having read this book, you will recognize that opportunity to rise up as something the poor woman created out of nothing. What a win for God to have created a person capable of that. I suspect that the hurdles of life had trained her to look for the little she could find. Those hurdles arose from God's infinite possibilities to coax a masterpiece creation at the bottom of the range. Think of her as the lowest part of a really gorgeous tapestry, a hem, but an exquisite, eye-catching one. She steals the show. Now think what would have happened if another patient was found this woman could help by walking with the dog. Imagine how pleased and fulfilled she would feel. What a win for the woman. What another win for God. Would God ever let that woman slip away and not build a world of opportunities for her? A world to come? For God, this would literally be another opportunity to create a world out of nothing. Of course, God will build it. What's in it for me? The same, at the very least. Take action. Famous question. Why do Jews ask so many questions? Famous answer. Why not? Torah is full of answers, so it is eager to hear your questions. Any question without a ready answer is just an opportunity to discover a hidden truth to add to the treasure trove. That's why I invite any questions to sbs447@gmail.com or visit the Shomer Israel Garden of Israel website to find classes and services to help you become selfish like God. That is what's in it for you and God. I intend. I have this website. I got the name. It's a charity, registered charity in Canada, and I had in mind to sort of make like links in it. How to connect with other rabbis or classes I give, or schedule Zooms, and also Zoom prayer sessions, etc. Like I try to set up here, but my experience here may color that somewhat. But that website is not yet active. That's why I'm mentioning it. Following are some of the pivotal thoughts that I have presented above, which you may want to ask because they break away from conventional thinking. If you struggle with God, you would benefit from Jewish teachings. Being Jewish isn't necessary. God grows. God is an active imagination, AI, not the artificial intelligence, the original active imagination. And God's imagination is growing all the time. All scientists acknowledge a creator, but obfuscate that with a different name, quantum mechanics. Torah's name for God, the creator, is Elohim, which is best translated as Lord, because it refers to the created powers or forces, male and female, positive and negative. To create from nothing, just imagine two exact opposites. Together they cancel each other out, back to nothing. To keep them alive, you have to imagine them constantly. That's what God does. The physical matter of our universe is composed of energy in positive and negative forms. It amounts to nothing. But figments of God's imagination, which is all we are, never fade. God doesn't know the future, but God does know all possible futures, which is just as good. God is always in control. God is not subject to the ravages of time, but does adhere to the sequence of time. It is only logical. We constitute God's subconscious. This gives us the freedom to create things that could build or destroy. At the moment of entry into conscious reality, God edits that process. Maybe I should say edits that to make sure it's created. Although sometimes we destroy, so he allows that too. So maybe I'll leave it like that. Mitzvahs are instructions for life designed to prod us toward creating and away from destructive ideas and behavior. So I guess it's up to us. And we have to use those instructions to put us on the right path. Otherwise, it's not our achievement. Women need fewer mitzvahs to suppress destructive behavior. The resulting freedom fosters greater creations of the kind God likes. The sum of mitzvahs that we do subliminally synchronizes us with the oneness of God. That was remember I showed how if you collapse all the numbers down, they come to one. Our relationships are as unique as God's creations. We create them from nothing. They have divine value because they give God more to do. Finally, we can trigger a golden messianic age that will further transform us. The benefits that await us are indescribable. Jewish rules for life. Earlier, I related a story by Dr. Jordan Peterson. I chose his story not only for its appropriateness, but also because I wanted to identify myself with him. Correct? I am name dropping. Same as I did with Richard Dawkins at the beginning of this book, though I never intended to identify with Dawkins. In a sense, Peterson also did some name dropping in one of his talks, wherein he identified with the name Israel, that is, one who struggles with God. I explained that earlier. My guess is that he would identify even more with the name of Israel based on the Jewish insights I have presented in this book. I have confessed to being a fan of Jordan Peterson for reasons of his sharp intellect, command of language and data, and passion for teaching. He cares for people and wants to help them. Surely readers recognized all these qualities and made his book, 12 Rules for Life, such a runaway bestseller. Indeed, I hold them up as an example of humans creating for nothing, same as I did with the bedraggled person in his story of the lady with the dog. Only she was an example at the lower, maybe the lowest end of the range, while Peterson would be an example at the upper end of the range. How subtle a creation from nothing did he achieve by articulating for others the questions they didn't even know they had. His analyses of modern angst are dead on, and his solutions are a good start. I like to think he could make them even better if he was more familiar with Jewish teachings that have blossomed out of 2,000 years of struggling with God. With that in mind, I made 12 short videos, one on each of his rules. Each video starts with an excerpt of Peterson explaining his rule and follows with me exploring possible improvements from Jewish teachings. Following are links to those videos. Each one introduces a possible action item that may be further enhanced with lessons on the 199 mitzvahs presented in the appendix available through the Shomer Israel Garden of Israel website or in this book. And here are the links. So, unless does anybody, let me stop for a moment to say if there's any questions or comments on our esteemed guests here, Rabbi and Ronald.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so let's have a play to see if we can catch the first one. Jordan Peterson on Rule 1, stand straight with your shoulders back.
Chapter 1 is a bit of a meditation on the nature of hierarchies and the biochemistry of hierarchy, but it's also an injunction about how to present yourself, because you want to present yourself to the world in a manner that doesn't disgrace you in some sense. That might be a good way to think about it. And you don't want to disgrace yourself, because the consequence of disgrace is emotional dysregulation, more pain, less positive emotion. And so the best way to present yourself is to stand up forthrightly and to stretch out, and to occupy some space, and you make yourself sort of vulnerable by doing that, because you open up the front of your body, right? But it's a sign of confidence, and that way people are most likely to give you the benefit of the doubt. And that's a good way to start regulating your mood. But not only does it directly regulate your mood to stand up, because it's so tightly associated, like posture reflection is associated with serotonin and emotional regulation, but also because if you straighten up and you present yourself in that manner, then other people are more likely to take you seriously. And that means they'll start treating you as if you're a number 1 lobster instead of a number 10 lobster. And that's another way that you can at least give yourself the bloody benefit of the doubt, right? And confront the world in a courageous manner. And that's a really good way of figuring out how to establish yourself in multiple competence hierarchies, because one of the general rules of thumb about how to be successful is to confront things that frighten you forthrightly and with courage. And that's kind of a universal strategy for success. And so that's what the first chapter is about. So that's quite fun. My graduate students, I told them these lobster stories. My graduate students, when we used to go out for breakfast, and they were a very competitive bunch, very fractious and witty, and they were always trying to get one over on each other, and making some witty put down or something like that. And it got to the point in the restaurants where they'd put their claws in the air and click like this when they, got one over on one of their colleagues, which was very peculiar and strange and very funny as well. So that's rule number one.
Jordan Peterson's desire that we avoid disgrace and gain confidence is warmly received. However, his strategy for doing so, of standing up straight with our shoulders back, is not very promising, because it doesn't tell us when to do it. The only people that are able to do that all day are security guards. Most of us are busy sitting or distracted with other things. When should we do this? That'll have a positive and ongoing effect on our personality. So Jewish teaching suggests a better strategy. In Ethics of Our Fathers, which in Hebrew is Pirkei Avot, chapter 1, paragraph 15, a famous sage by the name of Shammai, who lived around the time of Christ, before or after, around that time, said three things. Now, that whole chapter is about three things, and three things is a theme that I will develop in another series. There is a Jewish trinity, so to speak, and it can have a wide-ranging effect. But he said these three things. And the three things are, make regular times to study, that is, gain wisdom on a regular basis. Say little and do a lot. Means don't make big promises, but achieve big things. And thirdly, and this is the one I want to concentrate on, greet everyone with a pleasant countenance. That is, smile. Smile when you greet people. And that's the advice I think is much more powerful than standing straight with your shoulders back, because everybody that comes into your purview, that comes into your line of sight the first time, greet them with a smile. You can paste a smile on your face. No matter how busy you are or what's going on, you can teach yourself, train yourself to paste a smile on your face. And if you do, then right away, first of all, it makes you feel better. Pasting a smile on your face just has this effect on ourselves. But also it conveys a message to the other party. It tells them you're glad to see them, that you're happy they're there, that you want to work with them in a positive way. And even if they don't react immediately, some people don't because they're coming with their own problems, but internally there is a reaction. It'll have an effect. So be confident that this will work for you, and do it even if you don't feel like smiling, even if you maybe don't like that person or don't know them or are afraid of them. But paste a smile on your face, because it will have an effect. And don't worry about being a hypocrite, because it's not hypocritical to want to deal pleasantly with someone, to want to be friendly with someone, even if you're not yet there. And there's nothing hypocritical about trying to change the circumstance to a better situation. So paste a smile on your face, try it, you'll see it works. So that was my first thing. That wasn't bad, the presentation. You'll see that the subtitles in black that I put on the video, those are ones I added to. I found this is something I learned from when my son was a young child. He was a little troublesome in the classroom, and that just wasn't listening to the teacher. So we met with the child psychologist, and he told us that some kid, this I didn't know before now, so I know it's made a big impression on me, that some people learn by hearing and some people learn by seeing. And my son was more of the seeing kind. So that's why I added the subtitles, so that people, some people listen to what's going on. Some people like to read something, it penetrates them better. So I thought that might help. So I added the subtitles both for what Jordan Peterson said and for what I was saying. So there was like I don't know, I think an 8-minute video or something like that. Um, and so what did you think?
I
Which
liked it.
did I make? I guess I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think I made my point that I think that um, the smile is a lot easier to implement than the standing straight with your shoulders back. Because you just don't always have that opportunity. Your boss comes in angry. That ain't gonna work for you. So if you're smiling, that might work a lot better. Uh,
Yeah, you definitely, attract more uh, bees with honey for sure.
Mm.
You gotta, yeah. So there's nothing wrong with being a pleasant person. Yeah,
so that is and I've implemented that. That I'm proud of. That I was able to implement that. And I find it's very, very useful. Very able to, not to the others, to me for sure, puts me in a good mood. And so but all kudos to Jordan Peterson, because he's coming up with these ideas out of the blue. He has to find everything. He doesn't have he never refers to a body of knowledge that he's calling upon, some great scholars or wise people, or counselors that have tried this and I mean, he does actually. He does have people he likes to call. He quotes Solzhenitsyn and Dostoevsky and some other great thinkers, Carl Jung, and Freud. He studied these people, and he's absorbed their teaching. So he does use them, but you see here, it was just his own. He doesn't have the wealth of wisdom to call upon as tried and true. And these guys were working alone, also, like super clever as Solzhenitsyn and Dostoevsky and Carl Jung were, and Freud invented fields of study and so on. But still, they didn't have the benefit of a whole cadre of peers with whom to discuss and learn and hand it down from Sinai, etc. I mean, that's the value of the Torah. When you're going looking through the Torah for some advice, you're dealing with God's wisdom distilled through human beings, really distilled very nicely. So you just have to be aware of how to find it.
If you come across too open and standing too wide, people will take you as a big shot and will look shy away from you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't come across so bold.
Right.
With a smile, you come across as pleasant,
Yeah.
and people want to come to you.
I hear you, Rob. Right, Robbie. I'm 6.5 feet tall myself, right? And I have met people that just dislike tall people. They just, I'm too tall, up, and they just get the hate on. And we see far too much of that in this day and age, for sure.
So okay, so that's it. Okay, we want to take a shot at the next one.
Go for it. Yeah.
We have some time unless somebody else wants to comment. We got 6 minutes left now. We're not gonna be able to finish the next one. So maybe we'll save that for next time, because I'm very conscientious about time management. Class ends at a certain time. First of all, sometimes you're keeping people, they're embarrassed to leave because you're in front of them, and they have something to do, but they don't want to embarrass you. They want to insult you. So I appreciate that, number one. And number two, the other thing is, if you become consistent with time, people will learn that, and they'll respect the time. So it's also self-serving. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I like to be like, if I say I'm going to start at 6 o'clock, I want to be there. I found I've done more than 1,200 broadcasts now with many different rabbis, and the hardest thing was, for the first 500, I was pretty adamant at trying to get a sound check before going live for the broadcast. And every rabbi I meet, nope, my time's too busy. And and now I see classes are starting 2 minutes after my time, and some of that just what am I even doing this for? Sometimes I think I believe in being consistent. It's the only way that viewers will.
You have to learn to tell them up front before when they agree to do the class that there's this time constraint that you need to devote a few minutes to the sound check. Then they'll comply. But these guys, what you're dealing with is these guys have trained themselves to measure their minutes. I mean, like the famous we mentioned him, the
Not
Vilna.
just hours, but minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the Vilna Gaon. They would say the Gra who lived in the 1700s. It's like so he used to. He at the end of the year he would figure out. He says, "I wasted 6 minutes from the year. He wasted 6 minutes." You know, how do you? What do you do with a guy like that? He's just is so focused.
But he was a precise instrument for sure.
Yeah, well, that's why he could say that I waste. He knew the minutes that he wasted, and see everything else was precisely kept. So there's some phenomenal stories like that.
I have a name for that.
What's that?
They have a name for that. It could be called anal.
Or fastidious, yes.
I'll tell you another story. It's another story of a guy died called the Chazoni. She was the head rabbi of Bnei Brak, world famous, and so they once found him on the floor in front of his bed, and they came to wake him up. He was on the floor. What happened? Did he fall out of bed or something? No. He said he always every night he would extend himself, sapping his strength till he figured out, measured for himself, he had just enough strength to climb into bed. He said, I miscalculated. he collapsed in front of the bed. He had gone that far
Oh,
to have the strength.
if you've ever run your car tank empty, right? Most
Right.
sane people learn to put fuel in their car when they hit an eighth of a tank or more. But if you've ever run a tank empty, you know what that. It's just not something.
But to do it on your own person like that,
Wow.
So he just ran out of steam, step or two from his bed. Unbelievable, but that's the way he was. He was
Robbie, thank you so much for coming regularly. We appreciate it. I know you even tried to come yesterday when we were off.
right.
But that's okay. Better to be enthusiastic for sure, man.
Good
I
point.
don't want to miss nothing.
We're not here tomorrow. We're not here tomorrow again.
Oh, yes. Now, just for those of you listening out there, yes, we're not live tomorrow with Shlomo Schwartz at this time, but is my monthly class with Hashi Skobak. We're doing our meditation class tomorrow at 6:00, or 6 Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, so I look forward to that.
Okay, very good. And
we'll be back on Thursday, right, Rabbi Schwartz?
Yes, we'll be back Thursday, and what we're doing Thursday, obviously, we'll look at some more of these videos, and I'm preparing the last part of the text. We'll see where that takes us.
All right, that sounds great. So we'll be back.
I wasn't sure if it was today or tomorrow because everything's another day to me. Before I came on, first thing I did was, I got home from walking the dog. I'll check the emails, then I'll know because the email will be there. I thought, yep, I got it right because it's Wednesday for me.
Right.
Yeah, and I get confused sometimes on when I should be where.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.